One of the layers of correspondence, in addition to color, in addition to the astrology and numerology, is something called the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life is, I'm not going to do a big thing on it, but just to give you an idea, the Tree of Life is based on a Jewish system of insight and understanding called the Kabbalah. Kabbalah is a Hebrew word that comes from the root word likabel, which means to receive. Each of us has the capacity to receive direct knowledge from an infinite source of wisdom. So the teachings here are about you awakening through your own inner resources. Insight, understanding, awareness of love and compassion and clarity and strength and power that opens you to the beauty of life, that is ultimately giving you the courage to be victorious as you walk into this world, bringing the radiance of spiritual energies, recognizing that the foundation of life is spiritual and coming into the material. In the Kabbalah, what I've just described are the Sfirot. There are 10 of them. Keter, crown, is the universal consciousness. Over here, Chokhmah is the symbol of wisdom. Binah is understanding. Loving kindness is associated with Chesed. Gevurah, which means strength, or sometimes it's called severity, is over on this side of the tree. The center which harmonizes them is called Tiferet, or beauty. Here we have Netzach, which is that quality of victory, assertion of spiritual vibration in a world, knowing that the spiritual is the ultimate manifestation in physical form. It brings forth radiance and splendor into the world, the splendor of these refined worlds. This one here, Yasod, the radiance or splendor is called Hod. And then Yasod, which literally means foundation, there's the acknowledgement or recognition that there is a greater foundation in life, which brings us into Malchut, or what is sometimes called Shekhinah. Shekhinah is the feminine presence of the divine. In Judaism, there are 70 different names for God. Some of them are masculine and some of them are feminine. They're describing the qualities of this infinite presence that's beyond description. And the best we can do is describe it in all of these different ways. What you'll notice is that there are lines between these different sfirot. When I talked with my grandfather, Wolf Snyder, of blessed memory, he was a student of the Kabbalah. And he said that this is an image of an atom of consciousness. And as we awaken, these are the qualities that will awaken within us. You'll notice that the different sfirot are like subatomic particles. And there are lines of connection or force between them. The different lines or connections are associated. It turns out that there are 22 of them. The 22 lines, or paths as they're called, are associated each one with a Hebrew letter. In the Hebrew mystery tradition, every Hebrew letter has a sound, a symbol, a number, and a name. Each of the 22 major arcana are associated with one of the Hebrew letters of the alphabet. This is another interpretation of what the Tree of Life looks like, and I have given you several. Notice that we can draw the Tree of Life in so many ways, including the menorah is another representation of the Tree of Life. These are really deep mysteries. I just wanted you to see that there are many different ways, and our interpretation one way of understanding is we can interpret from many different perspectives. We can interpret from the physical, material world perspective, concrete, objective, mundane reality. We can interpret from the emotional perspective. What moves you? What has value to you personally? We can interpret life from the mental perspective. What's the story that you tell, and how does it uplift and inspire you? We can interpret from the spiritual perspective. How does it awaken a sense of purpose or meaning? Or we can interpret from this broader perspective. That's beyond words. That's pure energy that we are bringing into the world. Whenever you do a reading on a tarot card, you can interpret it from one of these 4 dimensions. So lots of people associate interpreting tarot with just the mundane, but they're missing out on what's moving you and motivating you. What's the healing story you can tell that inspires your deeper sense of purpose? That's the ultimate. And that's what we're discovering here. You will learn to interpret all of these different ways. So we end up with lots of different images or symbols because they're different interpretations, and they're all okay. This drives concrete material people crazy, just nuts. Except if you look at the work of people like David Bohm, who's a brilliant mathematician and physicist, there's something called the holographic universe, which says everything contains everything all the time. Like this little magic marker contains all of this and the entire room and you and me and the whole world in this little magic marker. But it's a matter of density. There's more magic marker than everything else, and so it looks like this. But everything is contained in everything. So physics is beginning to give us the same mathematical means of gaining insights and understandings that have been passed on through the mystery or wisdom traditions. Now, in addition to the Hebrew letters, as I said before, each of the paths are associated with the tarot card. And I've included this just so you can have it for meditation and reflection. But I thought that the next phase, for the next half hour of our class, the next piece would be, and if I can get the poll from you for a second. I have a wonderful little book on the Hebrew letters called The Hebrew Alphabet, A Mystical Journey. This is by Edward Hoffman. And I have associated the appropriate tarot card with the meditation on the Hebrew. The purpose of this is not to make you experts in the Hebrew language, but to teach you how to think symbolically, metaphorically, and Kabbalistically. Really, it's about you learning how to think symbolically for yourself and how to begin to evoke insight and wisdom from the symbols and images on the cards. Seeing how different things relate and choosing the symbols and themes that make sense to you, that awaken you to your own wisdom, to what you already know. Through the power of reflection and insight, we gain awareness of great mystery that can inform us and take us to what's appropriate in our life. We're blending and weaving together many different symbol systems into the tarot. So the card that you chose by accident, synchronistically, will have meaning to you. But it won't have meaning until you reflect upon it. And then you practice trying on the different symbols. And then you continue studying to discover more. The tarot is a blend of so many different symbol systems. It includes the energy from color, the symbol of number, symbols of shapes, which then leads also to astrology. It includes themes from yoga, from Kabbalah, from Gnosticism, a number of ancient traditions. That's one of the reasons why I like the tarot so much. By the end of this 9-month period, you're going to have insight into a number of different systems. So we're going to start with color. So one of the main colors that you see in the cards are the primary colors yellow or gold, red, blue, black, white, and then gray. We'll start with just these simple colors. I would like to suggest that color is culturally defined. In different cultures, different colors mean different things. So the interpretations of the colors that I'm giving you come through a Western spiritual tradition. If you come from an Eastern tradition, then by all means, bring your own symbol system into the cards. I'd also like to mention that the cards were created, obviously, in Europe and of European descent, even though we're told that they have their roots in North Africa. There was one person who I read, when she teaches the class, she teaches to very diverse groups of people, and she suggests that people color in the skin colors of the people in the cards to whatever feels more appropriate to them. I thought that that was kind of like a nice added benefit, because we get so stuck in our narrow symbol systems. And really, it's about expanding our awareness of how everything has a symbol, everything has a system. In terms of different traditions, according to the teachings that come from the Aboriginal peoples in the Americas, as well as from the mystery teachings about Atlantis, and those teachings are actually part of the Aboriginal peoples here in the Americas. They say that there are different skin tones that relate to different emigrations out of Atlantis. And the first immigration was to Africa, and so there's the color black. And the next immigration, I'm not sure if it was red or yellow next, but represents those races. And then the last was white, and so the Caucasian race. I've always wondered about the olive-skinned as well. There might be yet another, if it's not a blending, that would make 5 instead of 4. That's just my own question. But the traditions are that there are these 4 primary colors or races. And if we had more insider knowledge and went into the silence, into the listening, into the practice, we may even gain even deeper wisdom about what is it that each lineage carries through the bloodline in terms of wisdom teachings to bring into the world. Each one of us has a spiritual lineage as well as a biological lineage, and something very distinct that we're bringing through. So I just think when we're talking about color, we need to expand our view of what color is. On the metaphoric level, yellow or gold represents the highest level of intelligence. Highest level of intelligence. Just like sunlight brings life to our planet, this yellow-gold vibration awakens consciousness and brings us to life. The color red is associated with vitality, aliveness, courage, and passion. Blue, there are many different shades of blue. And actually, before I move on to blue, I think I'll go to red. We can also then talk about pink, which is a shade of red. It is that tender quality of love that we associate with compassion. So we have passion and compassion in the color red. Now, red also can be that powerful force that we associate with aggression or anger as well. everything has both a positive and negative expression. For the sake of the cards, I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible, though. But you might have things that you would want to add to what the colors mean to you. Blue has many different qualities. We've got the deep indigo blue and the light blue. And then what might be the blue in between, that kind of royal blue. So the indigo blue represents intuition and the subtle vibrations of perception, a spiritual discrimination. The royal blue is that quality of integrity, loyalty, true blue, if you will, the color of truth. The indigo can also be in that same frame of that pure vibration of clarity or truth that comes through our intuition. The light blue is more that quality of tranquility or peace, like the clear blue sky that brings the mind calm. If we blend blue and red together, we of course get purple. And purple is that quality of nobility, leadership, and spirituality. Black is a very misunderstood color. It represents mystery. Or the void. That energy that requires us to empty. White is the color of purity, virtue, spiritual aspiration, or innocence and trust. And gray or silver is associated with wisdom, the blending of opposites to a new perspective that is neutral or beyond duality. That's why we get gray hairs, because hopefully by the time we start getting them, we've got some wisdom.
So when you color it, you're avoiding wisdom?
I have been wondering about that. Maybe it depends what you're coloring. If you're putting in red, maybe you want a little more vitality. If you're putting in, brown. Brown is a color that is associated with the earth, with grounding, with that being here, energy. Can be also rich brown earth, can be fertile. And then we also have green. Green is a color of growth. A color of fertility. You can also overlay the chakras on these, if you are familiar with the chakras, but I'm going to just stick with these traditions right now. Any questions on this so far, just on the colors?
Orange?
Oh, orange. Thank you. Yep, these two, orange. Orange is the color of magnetism, warm power, and leadership that comes from almost like a charisma. So it's the power of warmth, magnetism, and leadership, as opposed to purple, which is like a spiritual leadership. Orange is more of a material leadership. Most of the cards have a very strong dominant color. So look at what the dominant color of your card is and see if that adds any meaning or insight to you as a message. The next level of storytelling. So we've got the color. Now we've got the shapes and the symbols. Eyes closed, eyes open. Eyes turned inward, eyes turned outward. Gray cloak. Cloak is what's covering you, covering yourself in wisdom. Long staff. The staff is a symbol of power. This symbol is as tall as he is. Staffs also in the Tarot are a symbol of our intuition, spiritual purpose, vision. That's what he's holding on to. So now can you see the metaphor of learning to translate, to think symbolically? You have in your little package a series of shapes that look like this. These are the basic building blocks of shape. We start with the vertical line. The vertical line is a line that moves from heaven to earth. It is the line that defines our internal relationship to spiritual energies. From the mystery traditions, the spiritual powers, particularly the universal, what we would call God, although the term God in the ancient mystery teachings is a symbol. In fact, in the Hebrew Kabbalah, there is a term for God that cannot be pronounced. It's simply letters. And the letters are a conjugation, a present perfect conjugation of the verb to be that does not exist in the Hebrew language. Because in the Hebrew language, there's no verb, I am. Am isn't here, it's just I. So instead of saying, I am going, I am walking, you go, I go, I walk. So you can say I was, and you can say I will be, but the present tense of the verb to be doesn't have a language. And there's a mystery name for that infinite source, which is a conjugation of the verb. So just when I'm talking about the divine, I'm talking about that can't be named. And whatever that is, it comes into form. That's the ultimate authority. It creates everything. So the vertical line is a symbol of the energy that comes in. When it's in the shape of a wand, it's obviously spiritual authority. We also have a horizontal line. The horizontal line is the horizon line. It's the outer world. That which is outside is the horizontal. That which is inner is the vertical. These obviously will end up creating a plus. A plus sign is balance between inner and outer reality. A point of balance between inner and outer. Now, what do you imagine it would mean if we took the horizontal bar and moved it up? This is the traditional cross or crucifix. It is the shifting perspective of the outer world towards a more spiritual domain, moving it higher. The language of symbols. A simple little movement of the line says 1,000 different things, gives you a whole new impression. The single point is like a seed or a germ or that potent possibility. That is unique and particular. A unique, particular possibility that is being born. The circle is a symbol of wholeness. The experience of coming full circle. It's a symbol of eternity, without beginning, without end. It's a simple symbol of unity. When we take the circle and we put the dot in it, it creates the symbol of the sun. The sun, which brings light into our world and brings life to our planet. Germinates the seed of unique individual possibilities becoming whole and fulfilling themselves. In a word, it's called identity. So your sun sign in astrology is about your identity. What is the germ that is seeking to become whole and expressed through you? What is coming to life through you? Your identity. The next most common symbol is the crescent moon. The crescent moon is a symbol of receptivity. Like the moon in our sky, in the night sky, that reflects the light of the sun, the moon is a reflective, receptive quality of energy. Sun is active. Moon is reflective or passive. Therefore, sun has been associated with the masculine principle, the dynamic principle. The moon is associated with the feminine principle. Just look at your card and notice if you have a sun or a moon on it. A lot of the major cards do. Or if you have the colors that are associated with the sun or moon. The moon can be shaped in many different ways. It can be a full moon. It can be a crescent moon, which is waxing. And how many of you know if you want to tell if the moon is waxing or waning, you hold your hands up like this? When you look at the moon in the sky, and if it's on the right side, it's waxing, and if it's on the left side, it's what's left, so it's waning. So in the tarot, you'll frequently see a crescent moon, and it will either be shaped to the right or to the left. So you'll know if it's waxing or waning.
So waxing is if it's on your right.
Waxing is increasing in light, the right side. Waning or what's left. So do you need to change dates? You need 3 minutes?
3 minutes until I need to change.
Is what's left.
Yeah.
Good. The moon cannot only be shaped in one direction or the other. On occasion, you will see the moon shaped like a bowl, like this. This is ultimate receptivity. And what if you see the moon shaped like this? Then the upside down position of the moon is the wisdom of reflected knowledge pouring out, being given forth. So you learn how to think symbolically. Let's see, triangles, right. Now, triangles is another basic shape. The triangle that's pointing up, again, we've got the horizontal line here, so that's vertical reality. And then we've got the horizontal line is external reality, sorry about that. And we've got the vertical lines actually coming together, converging, pointing up. So it is an attempt to go from the external world to the internal world, an aspiration to put energy that reaches up to spirit. The upward pointing triangle is the aspirations for spiritual insight and knowledge. And obviously the downward triangle would be the opposite. It's being grounded in spirit and flowing down in towards the earth. So there's a flow of energy downward. In alchemy, these have been assigned basic elements. The upward pointing triangle is called fire, because that's what fire does. It illumines and brightens and enlivens and reaches up. And the triangle that's pointing down is like water, which comes down, always flowing down because of gravity. The two other elements, earth would also be pointing down, but we add the extra little element of the horizontal reality, and it makes it earth. And the triangle that's pointing upward for air, but we add the extra little element again of earth, because air sits on above the earth, and air fuels fire. So these are the 4 symbols. And then the Western yin-yang sign would be what's called the Star of David or Solomon's Seal, where we have all of the 4 elements in the interlacing triangles of the Star of David or Solomon's Seal, or what's called the Jewish star. This star symbol also exists in India. It's a universal symbol. So just to repeat, we've got fire, water, air, earth, fire, water, air, and earth. Can you see how I'm doing that? Will you end up with all 4 of them here? This is similar to the yin-yang sign, because what we have are the blending of different elements that move into each other. The passive principle, which is called yin, and then the active principle, which is called yang. These are similar symbols. And then we also have the question of, so we've got the triangle, which is 3. We also have the symbol of the square. So what do we have with a square? We've got 2 vertical lines and 2 horizontal lines. So it's a very strong structure. It's creating a structure or a form that will support material and spiritual reality. There's another thing about the plus. So we've got the plus, we've got the vertical, we've got the horizontal. This is what makes up the square. The plus also, if we take that little plus and we move it up, we end up with the crucifix. But if we move that further up, it ends up doing this. Can you all see that? Mm-hmm. So it ends up becoming an arrow. So what we end up having is taking the energy of material world and elevating it to the highest level of spirit, and it then becomes an arrow or a directed focus. So now let's take some of these and see how they relate to astrological symbols. So we have the sun, symbol of wholeness and giving birth to a germ of unique individual potential that comes to fruition, which is identity. We have the moon, which is about our receptive nature, our reflective nature, which then includes our subjective nature, our feelings, our intuitions. What about the planet Mercury? Mercury is made up of these symbols. It has the circle of wholeness, unity, the crescent moon on top of the head. So receiving intelligence that becomes whole on top of a cross, on top of the earth, the cross of matter. Mercury is a symbol of communication between the reflective, feminine, the masculine, dynamic, and then the earth. So we would say body, mind, and spirit. We have all of that in the symbol of Mercury. Hence, Mercury in astrology has become a symbol of health, communication, sexuality and sensuality, business, because in all of these areas we need the reflected wisdom, the ability to focus and identify, and how do we ground it into our day-to-day interactions. Does that make sense? Little did you know you would be able to read astrological symbols by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Well, then we obviously have, after Mercury, the planet Venus. Venus is, we have the sense of wholeness, fullness, and fruition on top of a cross or a plus, the balance between inner and outer reality, between the cross of matter. Our physical world is based on this symbol of the plus, where it is a blend of outer and inner. In the ancient teachings, inner and outer are always reflecting each other, always reflecting each other. So this is the active feminine principle because of the circle versus the moon, which is the passive or receptive feminine principle. Hence it is that Venus becomes that symbol of divine feminine that brings magnetism and draws energy in, and we call that love. Or we call it relationship. She is the principle of relationship. Where do I identify in my interactions, internally and externally. And of course, let's hope that that's about right. After Venus, we have Mars, which is that, again, coming to wholeness, the circle, and we take that power and energy and we direct it out. So Mars becomes the symbol of drive, energy, and direction. After Mars, we have Jupiter. Jupiter is made up of the following symbols. We have the cross of matter, and then we have the crescent moon sitting on top. Is easier? The cross of matter and the crescent moon. Notice the crescent moon is facing out, and it's the moon that is expanding or growing, the waxing moon. So how is it that we in our material world, where we find balance between inner and outer, is receptive to expanding and growing? Hence the Jupiter symbol is a symbol of expansion, growth, and knowledge. Opposite to Jupiter, we have Saturn. Saturn, we have again the vertical line, that power and authority. We have the crescent moon facing inward on that cross, on the staff. So our receptivity is to the inner. And then we take the cross and we put it at the top. So Saturn is the principle of spiritual insight and lessons, that is the teacher through the experience of limitation, challenge, or obstacle. Because whenever we try to bring the earth up to spirit, it's not happy there. The earth wants to be on the earth, and spirit wants to be in spirit, and when we try to shift things, it's like, ooh, it's a little bit of a tension. And so Saturn is the principle of gaining insights and understandings into that tension that brings us ultimately a sense of new authority. Again, can you see how the glyphs, just the shapes, are a description of what the energies are? So these are the 7 planets that in the ancient world people could see with their naked eye. Then there are 3 more wild cards that have been discovered since the 1700s. The next one is Uranus. Now notice what Uranus is. We've got a crescent moon facing this way, a crescent moon facing this way, a cross connecting them, and then the staff coming down in a circle. We are receptive to all possibilities. What's coming, what's going, and then something more. We are building a bridge between these right and left hemispheres, if you will, or the possibility of what's coming and the possibility of what's going. And we're taking the authority, the staff of power, and we're bringing it into a new perspective that will make us whole, that will create a new sense of unity. Uranus is the planet astrologically that is a symbol for unbridled creativity, revolutionary change. It's associated with the Fool card. Each of these are associated with one of the cards, and I'll be getting into that as we proceed. After Uranus, we have Neptune, and let's take a look at Neptune. We've got the crescent moon facing up, ultimate receptivity. And then we have that staff of authority and the cross of matter. Ultimate receptivity of insight, wisdom, reflected light, bringing it in with new authority into the world, into the earth. The moon like the nighttime sky, brings light into darkness. Neptune is the symbol of visions. Universal love. And that kind of, instead of love like a Venus, which is personal, this is like compassion. A larger sense of love. And then last but not least, we have the planet Pluto, which is the symbol of transformation. Pluto's another one of those really interesting ones. We've got that universal receptivity, the crescent moon, with a circle inside, finding the wholeness, the union between the receptive and the dynamic. And we put that on a cross of matter. Here we end up taking the personal identity and bringing it deep within into the crescent moon to create a new authority in the world. Hence, Pluto is the symbol of transformation. Death and rebirth. So can you see now how these symbols relate? So when I'm talking about them on the cards, you'll be able to have yet another tag in when we get to your card. There's another level of choice as well, which has to do with the four suits. We talked about the aces, and we have the wands, which are the intuitive. We have the cups, which are about the emotional. We have the swords, which are about the mental. And we have the discs, which are about the physical. So we ask ourselves, whenever we are interpreting a card, what is the spiritual lesson or the purpose? On the emotional level, we ask, what is the value? Or how does this move or motivate in my life? Am I being motivated by desire or fear? How is this moving or motivating me? At the sword level, you ask, what story am I telling myself? Is it a healing story? Or is it a wounding story? And can I access the creative power of my mind to make a healing story out of whatever this is? And then on the level of the discs, it becomes very concrete. What is this telling me about my body in terms of health, diet, nutrition, or energy? What is this telling me about my finances? What is this telling me about my home or work environment? What is this telling me in general about my energy? And do I want to put my energy in? Is this giving me an energy boost or an energy sink? Do I have passion in terms of sensual or sexual or creative enthusiasm? So again, we're looking at the death card, and the death card shows up. Let's look at it at all of these levels. This shows up, this tells me that maybe there's something in your physical life that is being taken away from you, or you're re-examining. I don't know if it has to do with your finances, your home, or your work, or maybe you're needing to make some kind of a radical change in order to support your health. Or perhaps there's a real radical shift in terms of your
aliveness and passion, and you need to re-examine what is it that's essential to you. What is the creative story? How are you working with these energies? Can you observe the patterns from the past? What moved you or motivated you in relationship to these very concrete areas in your life? Now, if you're doing a reading with someone or yourself and you pull other cards, it might give you an indication of which area of life this is relating to. If you pull a cup or it will say it's your emotional life is going through changes right now. Can you see how I'm beginning to build the stories here? Let's say you were to pull a sword. What would that mean? Anybody? Your mind is going through changes. The stories you're telling yourself are killing you. Maybe you need to look at a creative way. And what if it's a cup? Your emotions, your heart. Is there something that is changing radically around your relationships? Whether it's your relationship to yourself or someone you love or something along those lines. Or if it's the wand, you're going through a spiritual test right now about learning how to come into right relationship to what really is essential, the bare bones, and how to become creative in your life. The Death card is always about creativity. So this takes it to another level. We're learning now how to tell stories. Storytelling is an ancient art for healing. An ancient art for healing, to engage the creative story. Each one of us is able to receive a direct transmission. And what it is we receive evolves and grows and changes as our awareness evolves and grows and changes. So it's infinite. In ancient Egypt, in fact, they used to have tombs. We all know that. What you might not know is that they would do hieroglyphics from floor to ceiling on these tombs, perfectly chiseled, except they would leave one area undone. And you're looking at this and it's like such perfection, the way every little hieroglyph was just in its place, and now it's like unfinished. It's like, what happened? Did the workers take a break? Did they decide not to come back? And it's like, no. They did that on purpose to imply that the universe is unfinished. It's never done. There's always more. There's always mystery. Always mystery. Which is again why it's so important to me that you receive the capacity to think symbolically rather than learn definitions. Every symbol can be interpreted many different ways, and you might interpret it as courage one day for red, or valor, or passion, or blood. It can be interpreted in any different way, or anger. It can be interpreted in many different ways. It depends, and you will receive, based on the context, how to interpret it in this moment.